What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Devy YouTube channel. We do an edition of this every week, and it's our risers and fallers from the college football season. So we're looking at week 3, which was, filled with a little bit of fun with the Colorado State game, but a lot of mid games in there. But we're going to talk about some players that definitely helped out their value, whether it's draft stock value, whether it's just college football value, Devy value, fantasy value. We're going to be looking at risers and fallers here on this episode. So hit that like and subscribe button while the intro is going, and we will dive into who our risers and fallers of week 3 are. All right, so let's get into the risers and fallers. Got to put our guy Michael Penix Jr. up there. We'll talk about him. We're always going to go through risers first. So let's talk about the good ones. Who out there are performing well? And we're going to start with Penix. I like Michael. I think from a quarterback perspective, I think the one thing that's standing out from him is that he's older, right? He's a senior, but this is his 6th year. So we kind of talked about him. We do a live show every Saturday night. We were talking about him this last night. We said, hey, listen, he's older. I think the injuries could, impact his draft grade there, but you have to give him a shout out for what he's been able to put on the field, right? So against Michigan State, he had 473 yards and 4 touchdowns. When you're looking at by the numbers, this was from the game, unless it says season total, that is from the previous game they played. So this is the Michigan State game. He had a 92.3 offensive grade. Big time throw percentage is 8%. He is absolutely throwing dimes out there across the field. Like his ability to throw deep, he has one of the better deep balls in the country. His ability to kind of find his guys, hit the numbers, hit his out routes, everything there is what you're looking for as a quarterback. He didn't have any turnover worthy plays. And when you're looking at it, he's only thrown 1 interception this year against Tulsa. Overall, very, very solid quarterback play there. And then 85.2 offensive grade under pressure. He's been phenomenal under pressure. When teams are coming after him, he's been able to find his guys. He's made 3 relevant wide receivers in this offense. Polk, McMillan, and in Odunze, they've been absolutely phenomenal too. So when you look at the numbers, he's increased that. Like that's something to know. Now, I only put up his 2 years at Washington. Obviously, he played the other 4. We're thinking of Indiana. But, you got to give him a shout out. 1,300 yards already, 12 touchdowns. His yards per attempt and his air yards for average are the highest of his career. So he's absolutely crushing that. You love his completion percentage there. He's having a phenomenal year, and he's in the Heisman race right now. When you're thinking of like their schedule, how it breaks down, the Pac-12 is absolutely deeming. Is looking great right now. So if he's going to step up and be that guy and could win that Heisman, you have to give him a shout out for how he's playing. Now, as far as a draft prospect, I see a lot of people still have a round 2 grade on him because of those injuries, because of his age. He'll be 24 when he gets drafted, but you got to give him a shout out for how he's been playing. Next guy I'm going to talk about is Damian Martinez. We had a nice talk about him in our Discord for our Patreon this last time. And we talked about like, why isn't he getting the buzz, right? He had 4th or 5th round draft capital, Devy value when he was getting drafted. He has looked very, very good. So when you're looking at his last game against San Diego State, overall pretty tough defense. 15 carries. He had 102 yards, 1 catch for 4 yards. He had 82 yards after contact, which is something that he does well, and he's definitely that's part of his game. 7 missed tackles forced. Absolutely phenomenal there. Explosive runs only 1, but I will say his elusive rating right now is 239.2. Now, if you don't know what elusive rating is, essentially Jay Stein talks about it in his model. You want to be between 100 and 150. That's pretty good elusive rating. Right now, he's shown that. So the question is, with his size and athleticism, can he be an NFL back? I think he can be. I think he's rising up there. I think he's a 2nd to 3rd round value right now in terms of Devy. But overall, I talked about him. I've been high on Damian Martinez since he came out. I have the receipts from when he was a senior in high school. Last year, I highlighted him on this channel, and everybody kind of talks about him. I think that he's stepping up. Doesn't have a ton of usage, right? 40 attempts, 351 yards, but it's been very, very efficient. The big game this week, we're going to see how he does. But again, when you have to get like him from a running back standpoint of like pretty good value for where you draft him at. And shout out to Oregon State. They look absolutely phenomenal. I'm really rooting for them after what happened with the Pac-12. Just overall, they have a huge game against Washington State, at Washington State, and then versus Utah the next 2 weeks. But if Martinez can really step up, be that guy they lean on, we could be talking about a potential, like he could be the best running back in the Pac-12. That's how good Martinez is. Next guy I want to shout out Cameron Ward. And you know me, if you follow me long enough, you know I love me some Cameron Ward. I want to give him a shout out. I'm not talking that he's going to be an NFL draft prospect, but I do think that he is good enough to be in the NFL. 6'2", 223. He's looked really good so far this year, right? Now, he played Colorado State at 451 yards and 3 touchdowns. Then he went and played Wisconsin, 208 yards, 2 touchdowns. He's beat Wisconsin twice now, right? So thinking of last year and this year. And then yesterday, 327 yards and 4 touchdowns. Now, as we get into the Pac-12, we're going to see what he's made of. But I do got to give him a shout out right now. In the game, the last game, big time throw percentage is 3%. He does have those turnover worthy plays. He has not thrown an interception yet. So he has 9 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, but he can get a little reckless with the ball. I think that's something that, moving forward as we get into the Pac-12, we got to see him improve on. And then I think the one thing that worries me that probably as an NFL prospect the most, his offensive grade under pressure scares me. 57% is not great. That's not a great number that you want to see. He struggled with that last year as well. So as we get into this heavier load, what is that going to look like? But I do want to shout him out. I do think that you could probably get better value for him. Like if you drafted him in Devy, which I would have probably went against, last year, even though I like Cameron Ward, I didn't really call him a Devy asset. It's more of a college fantasy asset. But if you like him and you're thinking, hey, you drafted him, he has improved his value. So that's what we're doing here on Risers, right? And Washington State's, if they can beat Oregon State, they have a shot. Like they could maybe make some noise out there in the Pac-12. And you have to give him kind of the benefit of the doubt there. Now, as we go through here, we're going to talk about some fallers. So let's get into some guys that have kind of fallen down their way. And we're going to talk about a homer pick for me, Donovan Edwards. I'm a Michigan fan, so I've watched this kid his whole career. I love him. I talked about him coming in as best receiver. He has not performed, and we need to have a conversation, right? 6'1", 210, he's got there. This is his season numbers, not his overall, because his season has been so bad I wanted to highlight it. 64 yards after contact. That's it for 3 games. 64 yards. You saw Damian Martinez had over 80 in 1 game. 5 missed tackles forced in 3 games. 4 explosive runs, which is not going to cut it for a player of his caliber. Only 4 explosive runs against East Carolina, UNLV, and Bowling Green. Not good enough, right? Elusive rating at 52.7, which he is one of the more elusive backs in college football. He has been the last 2 years. I don't know what's going on. I'm a big Donovan Edwards fan. I'm not going to just throw him off now, but he's got to step up. And when we're talking about fallers, he's definitely fallen in that value, right? I thought that he could be in that 1 to 12 to 201 range, but he's started to fall back in that pack of that 206 to 212 range when we're talking about rookie drafts. Like he's got to really step up. And I think he put him on notice a little bit. I think the thing that concerns me also the most is 9 for 59 on receiving. That's not good. He was one of the better receiving backs in college football the last couple of years, even last year with an injured hand. Now, what is going on with him? And I think that is the big thing we have to talk about. I think he's struggling to run. He did have the best game of his season last game, 9 carries for 50 yards. I know they haven't had any opponents that have had the weakest, probably one of the weaker non-conference schedules. They get Rutgers, who looks pretty good this year, right? So Rutgers, shout out Rutgers, 3-0. So 3-0, 3-0. What is that going to look like at Michigan? Can he kind of step up? So I'm not writing him off, but I think he is a faller right now, and he's got to really step up. Now, next room, I'm just going to talk about all 3 of them. Jalen Milroe gets benched for Tyler Buchner in the last game. Tyler looks absolutely awful, like we probably thought he was going to look. So Tyler's kind of out as a Devy asset. Then you have Jalen Milroe, because what are you going to do with him? I was never really high on Milroe coming in. I thought he had athleticism. I think they might go back to him. And then you have Ty Simpson, who I like. He's 6 for 10 on the year, 78 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions, but he just hasn't looked good. This overall offense and passing offense has not looked good for these quarterbacks. And I did a quarterback room breakdown of Alabama, and I thought, man, maybe Ty can kind of step up. I think he's their best passer. Whatever's going on with Tommy Rees, the offensive coordinator, is not working. How are they going to fix this? I think that's the case. Now, if they don't fix it, they could be at 3 losses. Like we could be talking about a team that, really struggles, and they struggled yesterday, right? So if you struggle to beat a South Florida team 17-3, that's tough. And then losing to Texas, who I don't know how good Texas really is, that's a tough one. So how is this quarterback situation going to play out? What does that look like? I have a feeling that maybe we just whiffed on all 3 of these guys, especially maybe Ty Simpson, who I thought was maybe a better passer than he would have. So they're definitely going to be on this, this fallers, this overall quarterback room, we might not know who the Alabama quarterback we want in Devy is till next year. And that's concerning if you drafted any of these guys. And if you're an Alabama fan, you're a little upset right now. If you're an Alabama fan, what do you think of this offense? What do you think is missing? I think that offensive line is struggling. We highlighted that in our team preview. We said that offensive line is going to struggle a little bit. They got that true freshman left tackle who has just been getting his butt kicked. I think that there's some big holes here for this Alabama team. So appreciate you guys tuning in. As always, these are our risers and fallers. If you want to know some player values, if you want to, for trades or whatever, put it down in the comments. I will hop in there. What do we think of the college football season so far? What do we think about Pac-12? Let's go. Let's talk. Let's communicate. Let's have some fun out there in the comments. I love kind of talking back with you guys. And if you have some Devy value questions, you can always find me there on our Discord and our Patreon, or just on the comment section below. Appreciate you guys. See you guys next time.